Have you ever gone through the motions of your prayers or any daily ritual and felt completely empty inside? Like you're reading a script, but the heart isn't there. If you have, you're not alone. And the man who wrote the blueprint to solve this didn't do it from a comfortable academic high ground. 900 years ago, Imam Al-Ghazali was the intellectual superstar of Baghdad. He had fame, wealth, and the ear of kings. But inside, he was empty. His spiritual crisis grew so severe that he literally lost the physical ability to speak. So he walked away. He left his prestigious post, dressed in a traveler's cloak, and spent 10 years in solitude. What he brought back is the Ihya Ulum-id-Din, the revival of the religious sciences. This first volume, the Book of Worship, is built on a single massive truth. Real worship has two halves, the outward form and the inward light. Let's look at the blueprint. Here's the foundation everything else rests on. Al-Ghazali says there are two ways of knowing your religion, and you need both. On one side, the jurisprudent, the master of fiqh. Law is the law. It deals with the external rules, how you wash, how you stand in prayer, what's allowed, what's forbidden. It governs the body. And the body, Al-Ghazali reminds us, is mortal. It will one day return to dust. On the other side, the spiritual sage, the one who studies the science of revelation. This is the inner work. It deals with your intentions, your sincerity, the state of your heart. It governs the soul, and the soul is immortal. Al-Ghazali puts it with a sharp image. Fiqh examines the utterance of faith. The shadow of a sword can make a person say the words, but the science of the heart examines whether you actually meant them. So, worship that's all outward form is a body with no life in it. The whole book is about putting the two back together. Before worship, before anything, Al-Ghazali starts with knowledge, and he ranks people by their relationship to it. At the base, ordinary men, driven by physical strength and habit. Without knowledge, they're essentially captive to the material world, running on autopilot. In the middle, the worshippers. Sincere, devoted, busy with their acts of worship. But, and this is Al-Ghazali being honest, devotion without understanding is limited. It's like a worker who labors hard but doesn't know the full plan. And at the top, the learned. Al-Ghazali calls them nothing less than the heirs of the prophets. They're the link between God and creation. They carry, he says, a light heavier than the blood of the martyrs. Why does he put knowledge first? Because knowledge is food for the heart. A heart without it slowly dies, even while the body keeps moving. That's the warning underneath this whole pyramid. Now, not all knowledge sits on your shoulders the same way. Al-Ghazali splits duty into two kinds. The first is fard ain, individual obligation. This is the non-negotiable personal stuff. The basics of belief, how to pray, how to fast, and importantly, how to recognize the destructive vices in your own heart, like envy and pride, so you can remove them. This duty is scoped to you. It expands as life demands it. When Ramadan arrives, knowing how to fast becomes your responsibility. Nobody can do it for you. The second is fard Kifayah, community obligation. These are the sciences a society needs to function. Medicine, mathematics, administration, the trades. Here's the elegant part. If enough people take these up, the duty is lifted from everyone else. But if nobody does, the entire community is in sin. So, one duty protects your soul. The other keeps civilization standing. A healthy life needs both in balance. Let's zoom out and look at the whole map of beneficial knowledge. Because Al-Ghazali is very organized about this. Everything flows from 4 sources: the Quran, the Sunnah, the example of the Prophet, Ijma, the consensus of the scholars, and the sayings of the companions. That's the wellspring. From those sources branch the primary sciences, and they split in 2 directions. One faces the world, fiqh, the rules for keeping society fair and orderly. The other faces the hereafter, the science of the heart, removing your inner faults and adopting praiseworthy qualities. Then there are helpful sciences, language and grammar. Why do these matter? Because without them, you can't even understand the original sources correctly. And finally, the supplementary sciences, things like tafsir, Quranic commentary, the study of how revelation was transmitted, and the biographies of the narrators. It's a complete ecosystem. And notice, every branch ultimately points back toward the same goal, a heart oriented to God. Now, watch how Al-Ghazali takes that outward and inward principle and applies it to a single act of worship, the pilgrimage. Every step has a body and a soul. You put on the ihram, 2 simple pieces of unsewn white cloth. Outwardly, that's the dress code. Inwardly, Al-Ghazali says, remember your burial shroud. You're rehearsing your own death. You call out the talbiyah, here I am, O God. Outwardly, just words. Inwardly, it's the soul suspended between hope and fear, answering a divine summons. You make tawaf, circling the Kaaba. The body walks in circles, but the heart is meant to circle God, the way the angels circle the throne. You throw the stones at Mina. There's no obvious logic to it, and that's exactly the point. It's an act of pure obedience, driving away the inner devil, the ego. And the sacrifice, giving up something living, hoping God spares you in return. This is why Al-Ghazali calls Hajj the ultimate servitude. Done right, it dismantles the ego, piece by piece. From pilgrimage, we turn to the Quran itself. And Al-Ghazali wants you to understand that the divine word has layers, like a light wrapped in veils. The outermost layer is the physical vehicle, the letters and sounds. The actual marks on the page, the syllables your tongue produces. This is the part everyone can touch. Go deeper and you reach the soul of the words, the meanings, the wisdom, the commands, the warnings, the stories that are meant to reshape how you think and behave. The letters were only ever the carriers of this. And at the very center, the unseen divine attribute. This is the word as it exists with God Himself. A brilliance so intense it can't be received directly. So it's clothed in human language, broken down into words we can actually bear, the way you'd dim a blinding light so a human eye can look at it. When you recite, you're holding all 3 layers at once. So how should you actually recite? Same pattern. There's a discipline for the body and a discipline for the heart. On the outer side, the formalities. Perform your wudu, your ablution, and face the Qibla. Read slowly, in a soft, unhurried tone, never rushed. Balance it. Recite aloud enough to stay engaged, but quietly enough that you're not just performing for others. And when a verse calls for it, when it speaks of God's mercy or His warning, let yourself weep, or at least hold the posture of someone who could. But none of that is the real work. The inner side is where recitation lives. Recognize the sheer magnitude of the speaker. These are the words of the Lord of the universe. Feel your own smallness as a mortal reader holding them. Let the meaning actually land. Feel the hope, feel the fear, feel the sorrow each verse carries, and clear your mind of every competing worldly thought. Because the goal was never to finish the Quran. The goal is to let it change you. Al-Ghazali pictures the heart as a mirror, meant to reflect the light of revelation. But 4 things rust that mirror over, until almost nothing gets through. Veil 1. Pronunciation obsession. When you pour all your attention into perfecting the sounds, every letter, every rule of tajweed, and completely miss the meaning, the technique becomes a wall in front of the message. Veil 2. Blind sectarianism. When you accept inherited dogma so rigidly that you stop seeking truth, you become chained to one school's opinions and shut the door on understanding. Veil 3. Persistent sins and pride. This one's the most direct. Ongoing, unrepented sin literally rusts the heart. Worldly passions and arrogance build up like grime, and they block the light of revelation from ever reaching you. Veil 4. Literalism. Believing the surface is all there is, thinking the words have only their plain external meaning, and denying the boundless unseen depths underneath. Notice the pattern. Every veil is a way of staying on the outside of the word. Al-Ghazali's whole project is to get you inside. Next, Zikr, the remembrance of God. And Al-Ghazali describes it almost like a curve you climb over a lifetime. Phase 1. Effort. At the start, it's mechanical. The tongue repeats the words, but the mind keeps wandering off. You're fighting distraction the whole time. Be patient. Everyone begins here. Phase 2. Habituation. Keep going, and remembrance becomes a habit. It starts to flow naturally, without that intense mental strain. It's no longer a battle, it's a rhythm. Phase 3. Deep love. Now something shifts. The zikr becomes the very nature of your soul. The practitioner almost forgets the world, finding joy only in the beloved. The words aren't a task anymore, they're where you most want to be. And Phase 4. Eternity. This is the one that changes the stakes completely. When the body dies, the soul's zikr continues seamlessly into the barzakh, the realm beyond the grave. You die, Al-Ghazali is saying, in the condition you lived in. So this quiet practice you build now, it's the state you carry into forever. Closely related to zikr is dua, calling on God, asking Him directly. And Al-Ghazali, ever the architect, breaks down what makes a dua accepted. 4 elements. First, timing and posture. Pray in the most honored moments, the last third of the night, while in prostration or in the rain. And use your body. Face the Qibla, raise your hands. Second, tone. Keep your voice in between, not silent, not loud and showy. No ornate rhyming phrases trying to sound impressive. Just humility. Third, condition. Have absolute certainty that God will answer. Ask firmly. And open and close by praising God and sending blessings on the Prophet. You don't barge in, you approach with manners. And fourth, the deepest one, deepest purity. The body must be nourished by lawful food and the soul cleared of any injustice you've done to others. Because a sincere request, Al-Ghazali implies, starts long before you open your mouth. Now, Al-Ghazali does something beautiful. He takes the whole day and turns it into a structure for worship. Time itself becomes architecture. Dawn to sunrise, the most honored window of all. He'd reserve it exclusively for zikr, for praise, and for reading the Quran. Your mind is fresh. Give that freshness to God. Sunrise to midday, now you fold in the world. The mid-morning prayer, yes, but also your social duties. Visiting the sick, attending funerals, helping the people around you. Worship and service side by side. Midday to afternoon, the working window. Earn your livelihood, take care of your worldly business. And anchor it with the early afternoon prayer. Afternoon to sunset. And here you begin to turn back inward. The late afternoon prayer and a kind of accounting, reflecting on the day. What did I do with these hours? So the day isn't just time passing, it's a deliberate movement from God into the world and back to God. And the night has its own architecture. Here's the idea that surprises people most. Even your sleep can be worship. Sunset into sleep. You begin with the evening prayers, the day's final light before rest. You close the day with God the way you opened it. Then, sleep itself. Al-Ghazali says it counts as worship if it's done correctly. Sleeping with wudu, facing the Qibla, avoiding heavy overeating so your sleep stays light and your heart stays present. Rest with intention becomes part of the path. In the deepest part of the night comes tahajjud, rising for the night vigil. This, Al-Ghazali says, is the darkest hour but the most luminous opportunity. The time of secret talk with God, when invocations are most likely to be accepted. And finally, Sehri, the pre-dawn meal, and seeking forgiveness as the night gives way to a new day. So, you sleep toward God, you wake for God, and even your rest is folded into worship. That night vigil, the tahajjud, is hard. So Al-Ghazali, practical as ever, tells you how to actually sustain it. And it comes down to a balance. Care for the body and care for the soul. On the physical side, the enablers. Eat and drink minimally so you avoid the heavy, burdensome sleep that traps you in bed. Avoid exhausting yourself with draining physical labor during the day. And take a purposeful midday nap. That short rest is what prepares the body to rise at night. On the spiritual side, and Al-Ghazali is blunt here, avoid sin during the day. Daytime sin, he says, casts a heavy weight on the soul, making it almost impossible to rise. Keep the heart free of hatred and worldly anxiety, and nurture a genuine love for those secret conversations with God. Because here's the truth underneath the scale. You can't engineer the night vigil with willpower alone. The body has to be light, but the soul has to actually want it. So we've walked through the whole architecture, outward and inward, knowledge, pilgrimage, Quran, Zikr, dua, the day and the night. Al-Ghazali closes by asking, who are you on this path? He gives us 4 archetypes. The worshipper, who dedicates their life to ritual devotion and the duties of the body. Their whole focus is sincere, structured worship. The scholar, who prioritizes teaching and writing. Their inner thread is to spread benefit, to carry knowledge forward to others. The business person, who's actively engaged in the world, providing for their family and community. Their worship is built into their honest, continuous work in the marketplace. And the fourth, the Unitarian, the Siddiq, the truthful one. This is the highest station. Their whole life is fixed on the oneness of God. Every action, every moment becomes a continuous act of consciousness, a life turned fully toward the divine. And that's the destination of the entire book of worship. Not just to perform the rituals, but to become someone whose every breath is remembrance. Thank you for watching. If this helped, stay with us. Volume 2 is next.